"My brother," said she, as she placed his knapsack on his shoulders, "be careful of yourself, for if you are killed, I shall be alone in this world." These words carried a ray of hope into Fernand's heart. Should Dante return, Mercédès might one day be his. Mercédès was left alone, face to face with the vast plain that never seemed so barren, and the sea that never seemed so vast. Bathed in tears, she wandered about the Catalan village. Sometimes she stood mute and motionless as a statue, looking toward Marseille, at other times gazing on the sea, and debating as to whether it were not better to cast herself into the abyss of the ocean, and thus end her woes. And it was not want of courage that kept her from putting this resolution into execution, but her religious feelings came to her aid and saved her. Caderousse was, like Fernand, enrolled in the army, but being married and 8 years older, he was sent to the frontier. Old Dante, who was sustained by hope, lost all hope at Napoleon's downfall. 5 months after he had been separated from his son, and almost at the hour of his arrest, he breathed in his last in Mercédès' arms. Monsieur Morrel paid the expenses of his funeral, and a few small debts the poor man had contracted. There was more than benevolence in this action. There was courage. The South was aflame. To assist, even on deathbed, the father of so dangerous a Bonapartist as Dante was stigmatized as a crime. Okay, hold on. So much just happened. So much just happened there. I want to get into what happened in Napoleon in our little history lessons here. We got to look at that for a minute. I don't know what, okay. First, R.I.P. Daddy Dante. Heartbreaking. Just truly heartbreaking. Showing Morrel is actually, a good dude at heart. I know I maybe questioned him at the very end of the story, but for how much he's not given up on Dante and he's paying for his dad's funeral, and Daddy Dante just dying in the arms of Mercédès, you just see Dante's support system all still together in his absence, loving one another, being there for each other. Oh, it's just heartbreaking. But on top of all, Caderousse is married? What? He's out drinking with Danglars and Fernand and acting like a cad this whole time, and he's married? When was there time for that? Did he invite his family to the wedding of Dante? Why is this information we're just now getting? It's mind-boggling. And he's going to the army, but he's being, since he's older, he's being thrown in an area that isn't very important. Meanwhile, Fernand being conscripted to the army, taking arms, he's going to see some action for sure. And Mercédès, this is very conflicting here, because Fernand's going off, Mercédès is sending him away, and she, doesn't, for how much shit she gave him earlier, and rightly so, she doesn't want him to leave because she's going to be all alone from here on out, especially after Daddy Dante dies. So with Fernand gone, and, she's not close to Caderousse, she really only has Morrel, who she's not that close to. So, wow, Mercédès, I mean, can you really blame her for having the thoughts of casting herself into the ocean to end her woes? I mean, don't do it. My God, don't do it. But can you blame her? She is shaping up to be a real tragic figure. What a way to end the chapter. I feel like so short. What was it, chapter 9, that we did this kind of quick wrap up of all the characters and where they are on the chessboard? We're doing it yet again here at the end of chapter 13. Seems too quick to do that, but maybe this was, a short volume that was being published at the time. And he knew there wasn't going to be more story for a while, so he had to wrap up everyone and tell you where they were going to be for when we re-enter the story later. But let's wrap up our little history lesson on Napoleon, what happens after Waterloo, after he abdicates and tries to escape to America and fails and is taken on by the British Navy. Basically, he's exiled once again, this time to another island of St. Helena. This is in the South Atlantic, and it is very far from Europe and almost impossible to escape. They're like, we have learned the lessons of Elba, keeping you in close proximity to keep an eye on you. We recognize maybe had unintended consequences that you could keep an eye on us as well. So, you're going to a very, very remote island time. And it's playing, I think, a little bit into the thing Napoleon dreads the most. Even though he experiences this almost at every turn, he's afraid of the isolation. This is the punishment for him. The power that he's accrued over his lifetime has kept him isolated from those around him, even his wife to a degree, Josephine, or his other wives. Now he's being physically isolated with nothing left to do. And So in his final years, what he's going to do is he's going to dictate his memoirs. He's going to shape his own historical legacy. And he does this over the course of 6 years. He abdicates and is exiled to St. Helena in 1815, the year that we're talking about here, and lives out the rest of his life until 1821 when he dies. It's not 100% confirmed, but people believe it was from stomach cancer, though some people do believe he might have been poisoned. But that's neither here nor there. We're not here to confirm or deny any of that stuff because we're not experts. We're just trying to get a context and understanding of what's going on here. Now, one of the saddest things is he didn't actually, in those 6 years, finish his memoirs. He did take a lot of notes, and he was, trying to give insight and context to all the campaigns that he waged, from Egypt to Italy, his rise to power. But none of them were really finished, and they weren't written as a kind of readable memoir. So when they did finally hit the public, it was done through his aides, the people that were close to him that had access to him were able to get his writings out. And some of these were shaped into readable documents and literature that Napoleon was allowed to some degree to kind of portray himself as, a misunderstood figure of history. He was a victim of the Allied forces, that he was a romantic hero, that he was just betrayed by fate and fortune. And I think it's fair to say that this is propaganda for his own legacy. And if not to, reinstate him into power, which was not going to happen at this point, at least help to muddy the waters of how people saw him henceforth. And I think to a certain degree, it probably worked. He seems like one of the most complicated figures in history, though, again, I'm not a historian, so I'm sure you can name 1,000 more people that are just as complicated as he is. But partly, I think, because of all this. If nothing else, he does become the legend of Napoleon that we are still talking about here today in 2025. Okay, thus concludes Chapter 13, and we will move right into Chapter 14 tomorrow, but I do just want to take a moment to remind you that if you want the story-only audio of each of these chapters, they are available on the last day of each chapter over at patreon.com/gruntworkpod, which is the podcast network Patreon, where you can support us by contributing only $1 a month or as much as you'd like to get access to those files and keep up with the story as it unfolds. These are files without my commentary, so if you just you don't want to hear me pitch the podcast network anymore, you can contribute to the podcast network and get the story-only audio. But we're living in precarious times, so I do want to just emphasize also that rating and reviewing the show wherever you listen to the podcast, especially on Apple, goes a long, long way to helping the algorithm put it in front of new people. But the best way to get to listen is if you share the episode with them directly. So text them, email them, say it in conversation, pull it up on your phone, do a little airdrop to them. Anything you can to get the episodes in front of somebody else is the most likely way that they're going to listen, and I would really appreciate that. And speaking of appreciation, I appreciate you for being here every day with me for the next 4 years. We have come so far, but we are well past our own 100 days, but we still have many hundreds of days left to go. We'll get through it together, everyone. 4 years, here we go, Chapter 14, Count of Monte Cristo, starting tomorrow. I'll see you then, okay? Goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.